Hey guys, welcome back here to another episode of Busch Gardens. Today is a little bit of a longer episode, but I'm going to get the Japanese area complete. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So today I'm just going to basically tie up all the areas that I've already done in this area. So I've got the station for the roller coaster. And then I've got obviously the kind of waterfall area, which I did in the last episode. And now I'm just going to kind of bridge the gap between those two areas. And I'm going to go in and just kind of finish up the top scan ride that I've got there, make that look a bit more presentable, and then basically just tidy up the edges of the paths and just make it all flow really nicely through the area. I've got these two great corkscrews going through the middle of the Japanese area, which make a really cool kind of pathway underneath. So that's something that's quite common with these kind of arrow corkscrew coasters, or even the Vekoma ones. So I wanted to kind of keep that in the game, in this park, sorry. So right now I'm actually just going to go and make like a cattle pen style queue line for the top scan and make a nice kind of themed entrance for it. So I know I've said this is a Japanese area, but my theming skills or kind of my knowledge on Japanese theming and culture is maybe not quite as perfect as it should be. So maybe sometimes there's a little bit Korean or a little bit Chinese stuff in there, and that's because I don't really know what exactly I'm doing, but I just kind of do what I think looks good. And if I think something is a bit too Chinesey, then I do kind of change it a little bit. But my aim here is Japanese. I have looked at some Japanese pictures and some Japanese areas of parks, especially, like Epcot and other parks that have Japanese areas. I can't think of any right now. Ninja at Six Flags Magic Mountain, for example. So I'm trying to stick to it, but maybe sometimes things are a little bit off. I am aware of it. I have been told in a previous video that some of the stuff I did was a little bit Korean, but we'll go with the idea that it's Japanese and just see kind of how I think so far it is looking okay, and you can see that it's an Asian theme, so it's all good. Maybe I should rename this area Asia rather than kind of sticking to one country in that kind of group of countries. But right now I'm just kind of doing the entrance gate there, so you can see where the ride is, and the entrance is right underneath the corkscrew, which I think is really nice. And as I said in the previous episode about this top scan, I'm trying to keep the ride lineup of this park very to what a Busch Gardens park would be, and I'm trying to keep the roller coasters and everything along those lines. So every coaster that I have maybe has a brother or a sister ride at one of the actual real existing Busch Gardens parks. So for example, this arrow coaster here which I'm building, or which I've built at Busch Gardens Tampa Bay, there used to be the Python. And then obviously at Six Flags, what am I talking about? Obviously at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, they have the Loch Ness Monster, which is an arrow, and they also used to have Dragonfire, which is an old one, which is not there anymore. So this arrow coaster could be the little sister, for example, from those parks, from those rides. And the other rides in the park that I have like the multi-launch coaster, which could be compared to Cheetah Hunt. I have the invert coaster, which could be compared to Montu and Alpen Guys, so you get the idea. So with the top scan here, there's not actually a top scan at any of the Busch Gardens parks, so this is the kind of the only place where I've steered away from keeping the ride line up kind of correct. And I think with the top scan I can kind of let it go a little bit. There wasn't really another flat ride in the game that kind of I felt would fit, and I'd already used the pirate ship and some of the other, the wave swinger, and so there wasn't really much options left. Obviously Busch Gardens Williamsburg has just opened an SNS, what they called, the swing ones, Scream and Swing, but there's not one of those in the game. I have actually made a static blueprint version of a Scream and Swing, but it's so big it doesn't actually fit in this area. So I've just gone with the top scan, and I think I can let it go a little bit. I'm being a bit too strict maybe with myself on the rides, but it looks good in the corner there. Actually reminds me a little bit of like something you would find at Canada's Wonderland. But yeah, anyway, back to this little area that I'm doing. I'm just kind of, as you can see there, I've just tidied up the path edges. I like to use diagonal paths a lot, and with the in-game paths you kind of get the zigzag effect because you have to use the square tiles. And so I've just kind of neatened the corners up by using some path covers from the Shy Guys set 1, and I've just laid it along the edges there just to tidy it up a little bit, which I think looks much better. And now I'm just going to do some more supports. This is just using the pillar from the in-game, really simple. And I'm just going to pop a little footer on the bottom. And as you know with me, I like things to be quite detailed sometimes. So I actually am going to go in and do a few little bolts on those footers using a pole. And I do this quite often. I do it very often off camera because it can be quite tedious to watch. But I only do it a little bit here. So you can watch me do that. And it's not too boring. It's very quick. But I love doing the bolts. It's tedious to do, but I think they look great at the end when the whole ride and the park comes together, and all those little details really make it look special. So I'm just going to go and do that now. This is the pole from the Shy Guys dining set, and I used to actually do like 8 bolts around a footer, but that took up so much time. Now I just kind of sticking to 4, which I still think looks just as good. On the bigger footers I maybe do 8 or 9 bolts, but with these smaller ones I just keep to 4. So now all that's left to do now really is to kind of tidy up the front of the top scan area and sort out this pathing here, and then I will go in after that and actually build the entrance to the roller coaster. So the roller coaster, I looked up some like famous, I didn't want to call it ninja or something like that, or anything to do with dragons. I wanted to kind of keep it special, so keep it something different, and I thought, okay, I do like the whole idea of ninja because, you know, Six Flags Magic Mountain has ninja, and another Six Flags park had a ninja ride. I think it's St. Louis. It's renamed now. So I was thinking, okay, ninja. So I looked up ninja names of people, maybe some famous ninjas from stories or things, and I did find a couple. So I'm going to pick one. I'm just going to look right now, second online. I think I found one, and Fujibayashi is the name of the ride I've gone with, and that is something I found just on a Google wiki search. I believe it's a twin or something, or some sort of famous ninja. I don't know. I thought the name sounded really cool. Reminded me of something from like Fuji-Q Highland, the theme park in Japan near Tokyo Disney, and so I've gone with that name for the ride. So I think that's kind of cool. So I'm just going to make the entrance for that as well. I'm just going to finish up doing these supports. Now I hate doing diagonal supports when I'm using this box support style. It can be a little bit tedious, and the poles are so small sometimes I get a bit confused. And obviously I've done them in green because why not? And the floor's green, so sometimes my eyes get a bit funny and I can't really see the pole anymore. But yeah, I'm just going to finish up doing that to make this kind of coaster complete. And then this whole back area here where I've put the grey terra paint on, I'm going to completely hide that in trees, so the coaster really kind of goes through like some tree forest at the end of the ride, which I think is really cool. And then the path from this area will lead up kind of through the forest, as you can see there, and this will take you into a new area of the park. The park kind of slopes up gradually as you get towards the back of the park, and so the back of the park is actually higher inland than the front of the park. And something that I really wanted to focus on in this park is using terrain. All my other parks that I've built mostly are very flat, and this is something that somebody said to me once in a comment that maybe I should try doing like a Busch Gardens style park where I can use the terrain a little bit more. And now I know Busch Gardens Tampa Bay is a bit more flat, but Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Busch Gardens Europe, is actually very terrainy and hilly. The coasters, you know, have some ravines and things, especially, you know, like Apollo's Chariot is a hypercoaster, which isn't actually over 200 feet, but the drop is because it uses the terrain to its advantage. So that is something I'm going to try and include in the park later on with a hypercoaster maybe. But using terrain in this park was something that I wanted to do, and I've just kind of done that as like a challenge for myself, just to try and really use the terrain and create these different heights and levels and things, because it's something that I don't often do in my parks, and I think it's really good to do some different styles sometimes. So that's something that I'm doing basically with this park. It's kind of like an experiment for me for trying out this kind of using terrain levels. So I'm really happy with what's going on so far. I'm happy with the areas that I've built so far. As I get later on into this build, the other areas are going to be slightly higher up on the back of the park, like I said, because the park slopes upwards. But I mean, I say this about every area that I build, but I think so far the Japanese area is actually my favorite area of the park. And I said that about the Egyptian area when I built the Egyptian area, and then I said that about the Russian area as well. But every time I build a new area, it becomes my favorite area, and this so far I think is my favorite area. I love the colors, and I love the way it flows, and I like the arrow coaster there, and I've just, something about it is made it my favorite, and I hope you guys like it as well. So yeah, this is basically coming towards the end of the build now for this week. I just really wanted to get this area done so I can move on to something new for you in the next episode. But if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And hit the subscribe button. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, click subscribe and then you'll be able to watch my videos. If you click the bell icon, you'll be notified, of course. I really appreciate it. I'm getting more and more viewers and more subscribers each time I post a video, so every little helps, and really appreciate all your guys' support. So thanks for watching, and stick around to the end as well, because I've just added in a couple screenshots of the area so you can get a nice clear view about the time lapse. But I'll see you all next time. Bye.
Once again, Tip, you're on point five. Once again, Tip, you're on point five. Once again, Tip, you're on point five. Once again,
That's not my business.